Good afternoon. My name is Kurt Meyer. I practice here in Carrollton, Kentucky, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce my colleagues. To my immediate right is Mark Cobb. Mark practices in Owenton, Kentucky. And to his right is Michael Young. Michael practices in Williamstown, Kentucky. And we are here today to discuss the issue of no-fault divorce. So with that topic in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. And the general topic that I'll talk about is what is a quote-unquote no-fault divorce. Let me give you a brief history of divorce laws in Kentucky. Of course, we could go back to the Neanderthal and Paleolithic eras, where when the men became angry with their women, they would beat the blood out of them. Certainly there had to be a better procedure than that in today's civilized environment. So what we had up until about 10 years ago was a law granting a spouse the remedy of being granted a divorce from his or her spouse. And in that process, the trial judge was always faced with the dilemma of to whom to grant the divorce. So you were not entitled to have your marriage dissolved, but one party was granted a divorce from the other. That was always a bloodbath. And the reason it was because there was a lot of social stigma placed on the party to whom the divorce was rendered against. So traditionally, the wives were granted a divorce from their husbands, and the husbands suffered a great stigma because there was fault associated with the process. Husbands resented that, and there was always a good bit of fighting involved as to who was at fault. No one wanted to be given a fault decision, so there was a lot of fighting as to that process. The courts, in their wisdom, decided that the process would be better served by dissolving the marriage as opposed to giving one party a divorce against the other. And in this particular jurisdiction, that process was instituted somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 years ago. Kentucky, in formatting its no-fault divorce, or more appropriately stated, no-fault dissolution of marriage law, followed the lead of the state of Florida. Florida really was the state that instituted no-fault dissolution of marriages, and Kentucky followed their statutes almost verbatim. So now we have in Kentucky the law which says that if one party is aggrieved against the other and wants to end the marriage, they petition the circuit court in the county in which they reside for a dissolution of marriage. And divorce in Kentucky technically does not exist at this stage. So what do we do about this issue of no-fault dissolution of marriage? Well, as I said, if a spouse, and for this example we will use a wife, if a wife feels aggrieved toward her husband to such an extent that she wants to end the marriage, she then files a petition in the circuit court in which she resides. For example, if we were here in Carrollton and the woman lived in Carrollton, she would petition the Carroll Circuit Court for a dissolution of her marriage by filing an appropriate petition. And she would have to outline what her grounds were for